Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. Prepare to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. Embark on an enlightening journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening in an 8-module course designed to help you connect with your spirit team and expand your consciousness. I'm delighted to share with you an exciting announcement. My very first online self-study course is officially live. I've had the privilege of working with clients from all corners of the globe, and one question that consistently arises is, how can I connect with my own spirit guides? How do I embark on a journey of meditation and connect with my spirit animal? And importantly, how do I begin to develop my spiritual practice? In response to these questions, I've poured my heart into crafting a unique online course that transcends geographical boundaries, introducing Connecting with Your Spirit Team. This course isn't just about gaining knowledge. It's about unlocking the door, the profound spiritual experiences wherever you may be in the world. If you're looking to explore the realms of spirituality, this course is designed to meet you exactly where you are. Are you ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening? Join me in connecting with your spirit team and unlock the profound guidance and support that awaits you. The link to sign up can be found in the show notes of this episode. Enroll now and take a first step towards a deeper connection with your inner self and the spiritual realm. Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. Today's guest is Christopher Witecki, who is an astrologer and spiritual life coach. For 17 years, Christopher Witecki has served the public as a master astrology and spiritual life coach that teaches people how to heal, foster inner happiness, and pursue personal joy. In fact, he calls it Sirius JoY, named after the brightest star in the sky. As Christopher puts it, his mission on Earth is to help you become the bright star you really are. Christopher is a gifted teacher and spiritual life coach, web TV host, and software creator that combines his unique talents to form a cohesive life coaching program for people seeking to find their joy and happiness. His weekly series, Namaste Today, provides daily spiritual guidance inspired by astrology and focuses on individual daily achievements with practical applications. Witecki has pioneered a new arm of astrological study he coins step astrology. His method combines the knowledge of numerology, astrology, and sacred geometry into a definite step-by-step method to self-realization. He calls his approach the 11-degree steps to Sirius JoY. The method guides a person through a process of self-enlightenment, opening the doors for personal joy and manifesting abundance. Christopher believes that self-realization and peace within oneself will lead to world peace without. He has invested himself in organizations, retreats, and festivals that promote love for oneself and humankind. He considers himself a human activist and donates his time to a number of charitable organizations and world oneness causes. Christopher's primary achievement is a real-time life coaching online application called Sirius JoY. Clients enter their time and date of birth, and Christopher provides a customized day-by-day and hour-by-hour diet of personal spiritual life coaching. Sirius JoY analyzes the subscriber's astrology and allows Christopher to coach his clients directly via text, audio, and videos, and address their story in real time. So welcome, Christopher. It's such an honor to have you as a guest today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
I can't wait for you to share. This guy knows so much about astrology, numerology, sacred geometry. You guys are going to be amazed about all his knowledge. So let's start with, how did you get into astrology? Like, what was your life like growing up? Was your
Oh, that's
parents
interesting.
astrologers or?
Hmm. I actually had a very eclectic childhood in the sense that, my dad came from a Catholic family. My mom came from a Baptist family. When they got together, they smoked a lot of marijuana and started getting into tarot and reading a lot of 70s books about manifestation and Seth series. And so they went down like a rabbit hole while I was growing up. Right. So we talked about manifesting reality growing up. My dad said using the force is how he used Star Wars to sort of be the symbol. And mom was into astrology. We had Linda Goodman books all over the house that I picked up and would read a little bit. So I grew up completely acclimated to this world, but I saw it as my kooky parents, right? Like there was a wall up for sure. But it definitely scored points with the chicks. You know what I mean? Like being able to talk about these things. So there's also, I got a lot of attention from so I kept it around these skill sets. But the story goes, I actually was dating a woman when I was 19 years old. And she said, I'm going to run your astrology chart for you when you come over tonight. And I was like, great. I'm curious. What is this? We went over. And when I got there, she sat down very seriously and she said, I'm sorry. First, I have to tell you, I don't think we're going to work out. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? My face was red. She's like, well, it's all about work with you. I don't see you getting married for like 7 to 10 years. I don't even see children in the chart. She's like, this isn't the man I'm looking for. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I was actually pissed. Like, I thought, what has this power over me? I am never letting anyone have this power over me again. Like, I've got to know this. So I started diving in. We ended up staying together actually, which was, so she showed me some skills and books and things like that. Long story short, I just started doing it. And when I would open a book, I felt like I had my own opinion about the book, even though I wasn't the author. So I started to see I'm channeling this. This is coming from another source. So, fast forward ahead to LA. I've been producing TV for a few years, like because my heart wanted to get in front of people. And but I would be doing other readings on the side because I worked for a television network for women called Lifetime TV for Women. So every woman on the set knew who I was. And I knew what their boyfriend signs were and who and where they were. And so one day one woman's just like, you need to drop television and just do this. Like you realize you're in denial, right? Like this is your real talent. So from that point forward, the internet came out with video. And I was like, oh, I can make my own TV shows with astrology. I'm going to take over the TV world. I was still thinking like I was going to take over the TV world or climb the TV world and make a hit on TV. And so I started doing horoscopes, video horoscopes, 12 a day, 5 days a week. So I was doing 60 videos a week. And then YouTube came out. So I was doing it for 5 months and then YouTube came out. And I was the first astrologer on YouTube doing what I called stand-up astrology, which is like stand-up comedy, but doing planets. And really the rest is history. It's been 18 years now of doing programming and astrological guidance and bringing all these other disciplines too.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. How many thousands of videos did you, 60 videos a week?
We now have 19,000 videos on YouTube with my face on it.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
know.
I mean,
It's a
that's
lot.
amazing.
There's the evidence. I just pray like YouTube, please back up your servers. Like it's the record of all my work. Like it's, you know what I mean? We couldn't possibly download it at this point. There's so much there. You can literally see me grow up. You can literally see also my talent sharp. And it's kind of interesting in modern times that we have something called YouTube, right?
Mhm.
And people go, I'm a YouTuber, and there's a little bit of sometimes bashfulness about that,
Yeah.
but now it's when I started, it was just the wild west of people uploading, family videos like TikTok. And now it's a go-to for everything. It's an authority. But to have like a record in the public of your entire career, just like that, I mean, it's like television, in a way. It's interesting.
Right. I mean, it must be fun for you to look at those old videos.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
Well, now it's hard because I'm aging. And
Right.
I'm like, damn it. We need to take this
Right.
down.
Oh no, it's in your face.
So that's the hard part.
Right. So I know. So you work with, tell me how does it work? I know you have this, 11 step degrees to,
Mhm.
astrology. Does that all incorporate the numerology or the sacred geometry? Is that what that program is?
Yeah, what happened was is when I was doing those horoscopes, I would do like a 3-minute video horoscope for each sign all day, for that day. And what I realized quickly was like the planets don't really move very much in a day. The moon will move 12 degrees. That's the most that it will get.
Mhm,
Mercury will move a degree. Venus will move a degree. Mars will move a half a degree.
mhm,
That's all. So what I realized is like, how the heck is it that today completely sucks? Yesterday was great, and the planets have only moved a degree. Like that, I couldn't figure it out. I was really just trying to reverse engineer reality, and understand how does this work? Because I knew astrology worked when I did a natal reading. If I read you natally, dead on, you're going to walk away with your mouth open, shocked at how well I know you and what's going on in you and all this other stuff. So I know astrology works. I was just trying to figure out what is it about the moment? What is controlling the moment? I know what the themes are. And my guides, because I'm an intuitive psychic, really, I was afraid to say that for a long time, just kept saying the number two. Like, look at the number two, look at the number two. And it's sort of like back then, my psychic awareness was sort of like charades.
mhm,
So it's like 2 words. Sounds like, my guy's kind of spoken. And I looked down the page and I saw, oh my God, every planet today is at a two, some sort of a 2 degree. Like they're all having twos. And then I had the inspiration. Is it possible that that number has any relevance to the changes? So that sparked it. And Linda Goodman gets the credit, at least for me, of providing what she thought each number in each planet was. So she said the moon was 2 and Jupiter was 3. And so right away I was like, oh my God, the moon is 2. No wonder things are so shifty right now. I feel crappy. It's all motion. I'm bitter. And
mhm,
the light bulb went off like, oh my goodness, the ruling state is this number 2. 2 is emotion,
mhm,
basically. And as I started doing this, applying this to clients' charts, it became really evident to me that this is the missing link in astrology. Like this gives you another 6 feet closer to the client, where we would have stood back and been like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be a werewolf. We're not sure. Like now I can say, it's definitely you're blocking your emotions and you're forgetting to pay attention to your ego. Like we can get a precise read on the client. So I think that's the revolutionary of it. But on a psychological level, I mean, this is where I feel like there's no strong, good school of psychology. I personally don't believe in any of them 100%. Once I saw astrology and the step system, because it explains the order. Because so I started studying and asked my guides, so what is the formula to manifestation? I asked my guides, what's the formula? And I still forget to ask my guides questions like that because they'll just tell me.
mhm,
Right. So I have every answer in the universe when I ask, but I've always never asked. I'm trying to figure it out. Outsmart them, or I don't know what I'm doing. But they're like, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I suddenly had the holy shift, like, oh my God, the process of consciousness is literally counting from 0 to 11.
mhm,
And I began to see in my research that, you know, that there's even psychological attachments to zero. Zero is emptiness, abandonment, boundaries, space, time, multipliers. And we already psychologically have these associations. One, I'm the one, the only one, the
mhm,
first, the best. There's a lot of psychological associations with one. And two, I'm not alone anymore. Hi, Dr. Valentine. So nice to be with you. Two makes company. I can feel you and you can feel me. And two is how we feel. So I realized, oh my God, I think that, consciousness, incarnation is basically hardwired in numbers. Like, how did God do it? I think the very root thing is a number. It's like a serial number. It's a formula. It's literally numbers, and the consciousness that's tied to numbers. And what the 0 through 11 play out basically is how consciousness turns on, in my opinion. So, and you can go through the steps if you want me to go through them, but it's like the first step is 0. You have to basically separate yourself from God and hold space for your creation. So the first thing we do is we hold space. I think this applies to everything though. So if you're going to go like, build a house, I would say, okay, first step 0, You need the space. Where's it going to go? Like, so I feel human consciousness naturally creates along these steps, subconsciously and unaware, that your house is on step 4 right now. Meanwhile, this interview has gotten to step 3, maybe compelling. I don't know. I'm gonna give myself credit here, but like everything we're creating, it to me is following these 11 steps, basically 11 plus a hidden one, 0. And so what I realized is that most people are skipping a step. And if I look at a chart, I can say, oh, Dr. Valentine's really not good at this step, this particular step. And lo and behold, when you research with the client, things are always falling apart at this step, the step before, right? So you can literally diagnose where people are awake and where they're not awake, how progressed they are in their creativity and where they're going, and how to diagnose problems where life isn't working because they're breaking down on 1 or 2 of the steps.
Fascinating.
Thank
I
you for
mean, really,
taking that all in.
right? I mean,
She
it's
just kept
really
nodding her head and just
right.
digitizing.
Exactly. Slotted all this information in the different slots. No, but it's actually really fascinating because you think of astrology. I mean, when I, you read a chart of astrology or you have a reading, and it's all these terms about astrology, and I feel like I have to take a course to even understand what my chart says. What does it
Yeah.
mean? It's trine and square and all these different terms, and it's
Yeah.
very difficult to really understand what the meaning is and all the different houses and everything. But
Yes.
you make it so understandable. You just
Thank you.
speak plain English. So, I mean, it's really fascinating. So, how does that then tie into the sacred geometry? So I get the numbers. Now, each of the planets have the number, just like numerology. We have a life path number, and it's all numerology.
Right. And the numerology. So, my definition of step 2 is very similar to numerology's definition of 2. So
Mhm.
there's an overlap between the steps. And that was one where it's like, this must be accurate because they agree that this is what 2-ness is and this is what 3-ness is. The sacred geometry are the aspects that you're just talking about. When you said like the sun was trining this or squaring that, that's sacred geometry. And sacred geometry is when you have points of consciousness and how they relate to other points of consciousness. So, for instance, a triangle is the most liquid and smooth connection between points of consciousness. So, the sacred geometry is how the consciousness starts to build into physical form through geometric shapes. And one example is this is sort of the wiring of how you're wired. So you have what we call, and I'm not going to say to what degree, but I'll just say Dr. Valentine has a grand trine in her chart. She has a triangle in her chart where 3 points of her consciousness are all speaking to one another, much like a cell phone tower triangulates the location of a cell phone. Your consciousness has the ability to talk to itself and work with itself fast and seamlessly. And this is what allows you to calculate information faster than the average person because your resolution of awareness can operate in a 3 at will. And
Fascinating.
so it is
Yeah.
fascinating. So a more advanced soul or more experienced soul is wired harmoniously in their chart. Their sacred geometry is harmonious. They're pretty shapes, basically. Whereas people who are basically still fighting with themselves, for instance, are squares. So if there's a square, you're still in an argument with yourself over something. Like my emotions are still arguing with my mind. You haven't been able to get your own mind and emotions on the same team.
Mhm.
You may not be aware that they're separate voices. You might be thinking they're the same voice, and that's why they're squared because one will go one way and one will go the other, and you'll find yourself caught between the two, right? So the sacred geometry tells us it's interesting, but that's how God works in intelligence. You have like awareness, and then the way you wire the awareness starts to create the intelligence. And the geometry tells us the intelligence of the soul.
Wow. So you can tell by looking at somebody's chart
Mhm.
how intelligent they are or how far they will go in life.
100%. What their potential is,
Mhm.
you know. I believe I think there's full free will. I think there's, well, let's go back. I believe that we sign up for a certain ride before we come
Yes,
down.
I
That's
believe that
most
too.
of the free will. That's like
Yeah.
75% of the free will right there, the choice to come, I
Mhm.
believe. And in that sense, being in the passenger seat, it feels destined, but I believe it was chosen. Then I believe once we're within the ride, we have also lots of choices and we can steer off, but eventually we'll get slapped and put back on the ride. And even you tried to die and you were put back on the ride.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right?
It's not time yet. Don't go. Not your
Yeah.
turn. Right.
Right. And they're like, nope, sorry, get back on the ride. You agreed to this, and this is what you're gonna do. So like we're caught in this on this ride of manifestation and free will. That said, I can tell you, okay, Dr. Valentine, she's got all these talents, she's got this awareness, she's got these past life skill sets. She's this is her awareness. This is what she's aware of, how much she's aware of herself, how much she's aware of the world she operates in, and how much she's aware that she's a child of God and can control the whole ride. So
Mhm.
that's what we call mastery, when you begin to realize, oh, this whole ride is actually me.
Mhm.
I am that I am, right? I am the ride.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
at that point, you have to be good at all three. You have to know yourself and master yourself. You got to master staying in the moment. And then you got to try to direct the ride. So a chart says, I'm amazed at what a chart says, frankly. I can't believe how much intelligence we have about people right under our feet that we don't use anywhere for anything. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's a gold mine. I can't believe it. It's free,
Yeah. I
you
mean, when you
know?
think about it, when I think about my own childhood and the parents would get, like a magazine like Vogue or something, and there would be that little tiny horoscope
Yep.
that you would read. And my understanding, in childhood was, oh, it's just all made up. Somebody's making these things up, right?
Oh.
Right. And there was just this little tiny thing. Sometimes it told you something that was true. The next time it didn't, but you're also a child at the time. And you probably, I didn't also understand, how to look at different things. And it wasn't until much later, I would say 20, I think I had my first reading January 2015.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's all right. So
And you
long.
were active in the 70s.
I know, exactly.
You guys who don't
So
realize what
it's
a beat
fairly
that really
new,
is.
right? It's
And
fairly
she's
new.
from Sweden.
Right? So it's been fairly new to me. And and ever since then I've been getting my chart and, getting readings here and there. But I'm amazed at all the information that's in there. I mean, I live by my astrological chart and I look at my numerology chart, trying to piece the things together. And it literally tells you have this opening. There is an opportunity, in May or in June, and get your act together, because if you're going to manifest this is like a portal sort of that opens up, that you have a better ability to create something or to do something. So how do you look at that in people's charts? Is it, do people have sickness? I was sick for many years. I'm sure that's in my chart. Okay, you're just going to play low these years, and then you're
Mhm.
going to come out of this. I mean, all
So
that must be in the chart to some degree.
it is 100%. And to understand sort of the solar system is the soul's system. So we believe that the planets are part of us, part of
Mhm.
the human race, infinitely connected, intimately connected to the human race and the energies of the human race. And literally each planet represents how fast our energy is racing around one state of awareness. Each sign is a state of awareness. So for instance, Mercury is our mind and our intellectual state of awareness. Our mind uh, cycles at 88 once every 88 days. That's the cycle of Mercury around the sun. Once every 88 days, your mind has done one lap. That's the frequency of your mind. The moon is even faster. Once every 28 days, our emotions will go full circle. So our mind and our feelings are the fastest moving parts of us. So everything else is also a state of awareness. Our ego, Mars, is almost just shy 2 years, one rotation every 2 years, almost double the orbit of the Earth. That's our ego. So how long would it take your ego to get over getting burned by someone? At least 2 years. It's got to go all around. And what happens is when the planets are moving around against the constellations, they're dipping into each other. and they're going through cycles. So for instance, when Mercury is in Cancer, your mind is thinking about your feelings. Then Mercury goes into Virgo, your mind's thinking about your body. Then Mercury goes into Libra, your mind's thinking about relationships. It's not that your mind is thinking that, it's that the universe brings it to your attention. Hey, did you know this so and so in your life is cheating on, on what they've been paying you, or if it's a relationship. So things become aware. So when you ask the timing of things, really the reason we can predict certain things are happening is because we see how Dr. Valentine's energy is, we see where the planets are now, and we see that the planet of sickness, Chiron, is going to now be putting attention on her body. So we can detect, okay, it's all about just going around in circles and cycles. Really, astrology is a counting game. In 2 days, you'll be this. In 4 days, it'll be that. In 6 days. And then in 360 degrees or 360 days, we start over again. So we can predict what happens is that and what we're mapping are all these layers. Dr. Valentine's thoughts are over here. Her emotions are over there. Her ego's down here. Her creativity is way over here. These two things of powder are coming together up here. So you're sort of like really mapping the waveform of how consciousness is picking something up and looking at something and putting something down. And there's a bit of a 3D sort of map of seeing all those things going up and down. It's like the waves of an ocean is really what you're looking at, of all the planets doing this dancing. And what's crazy? It is precise. I mean, I just can't believe it. I think what it is, like if you had to say right now, what's astrology? It's almost like we're actually on this Disney ride where you just get in a boat and you're
That's
just
how I feel. It's like
you're just
floating down the stream.
floating down the stream. It's like, oh look, we're in child's world. Do, 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 do. Like, oh no, look at this. We're in retirement. Wow, that's cool. Wave to the
Yeah.
retirees. Like that's what it
I mean,
feels like.
literally, that's what it feels like. I mean, so many people that I've interviewed, you ask them, what's the meaning of life? Well, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Are you asking me
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now?
yeah.
I think the meaning of life is to experience yourself
Mhm.
in the flesh. I feel we came down. We are children of God. I think the reason how I do think there's a prime creator. I think the creator created because the creator wanted to see what the creator looked like, and I think we are an echo of that. I don't know how many generations down the line now, me as a spirit wants to see what I look like, so I incarnate and see what I look like. I feel we're learning and we're becoming bigger and more aware, and I think at some point you outgrow Earth and you have to go, see what you look like in a different world. Personally, that's my
Yeah,
belief.
right. I think so too. I mean, we know there's all these different dimensions, people who have had near-death experiences and seen other, literally other dimensions.
Yes.
So, right. And so why would we be alone? We just think we are. We think we're so independent. We're just part, like you're saying, we're part of everything. We're part of the planets, part of everything.
Yes.
So
I believe
now
that.
when you look at the chart,
Hmm.
if we incarnate to have a specific life and most of the stuff is in the chart, then do we incarnate? I mean, to some degree, it feels like the day you're going to die is already determined in your chart. And we tend to go through life and we worry about, I mean, being a doctor, you get patients and they worry about, I'm going to have heart disease just like my dad did. I'm going to have cancer just like my mom did. And they worry about all the diseases that their parents or grandparents had. Now, everything isn't genetic and we don't know really that much about genetic, not even breast cancer, right? So you can get breast cancer for so many different reasons. But people worry about they're going to die from one of the things the ancestors died from. But the truth is, they might just die in their sleep when they're old, or
Hmm.
they might die of a bee sting in a restaurant. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
reasons. But we go through life and we worry about these things. But it
Hmm.
seems like our last day is already recorded.
Hmm.
Like we have like a checkout time. And there are people who have had near death experiences that say, oh, I was told I have 3 outs in my life. This was one of them. So I could stay if I wanted to. But I chose
Hmm.
to come back because they showed me all this fun stuff that I was going to experience if I come back.
Right.
Right. I
You
didn't
miss
get that
out.
choice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you feel like that is in the chart to that there are certain outs in your chart or?
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
there are for one, there are challenges. So there are things I think you set up to face. Like we can tell, you know, your Chiron placement, which is a comet asteroid that like swings around the solar system. It's really quirky. Is really your trauma, your wound, your major trauma. And it seems that looking at astrology, that until age 50, the only thing you came to do was to clear that trauma,
Mhm.
right? So that trauma gets sort of poked many times through your life, through other planets, swinging by it, flying by it, pulling on it, poking it with the conjunction. And a lot of times, sometimes an out is just like, oh God, I don't want to do this again. And people want to leave on a trauma point, right?
Right.
And and I'll tell them, I mean, and sometimes their issue is like that trauma was they committed suicide
Mhm.
the last time. So they already gave up. They have the memory of giving up. They have to come on the planet and not give up. That's the karma.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
don't give up this time.
Yeah.
And even if they died in a car accident,
Mhm.
they be brought back. The heaven's like, no, no, no. The whole thing is that you don't commit suicide. You're going
Right.
back. Right. Like kind of thing. So the windows are there for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, we will warn our clients to be, to be aware, be conscientious. This is what you want the choice to be. And really it's about impregnating your conscious with intention, because
Mhm.
ultimately what this is, I mean, what I'm studying right now, I don't know where your belief structure is currently on how the matrix works, but from what I understand, you and I are right now in heaven. We're sleeping next to each other in a coma where we're imagining this experience together right now. We're technically in heaven
Mhm.
with some sort of gadget on our face, most
Yeah.
likely.
Right. 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 I mean, it's like shamanism, right? This is where the dream world. I mean, the dream world is more real than this world, right? And having a near death experience, that's more real than this world. So I hear you.
Oh, thank you.
I hear
I
you.
think it's you that brought that to me really clearly. You drove that home for me when we met earlier this
Mhm.
year. Yeah.
Right.
I was just like, wow, more real. Because you hear that. You hear there's more color. You hear the
Yeah.
sounds are better. The taste,
Yeah.
like apparently, even the hugs, the love, everything
Mhm.
apparently is all like a drug trip. And people don't want to
Right.
come back because it
Yeah.
is literally heaven.
Right. Exactly. Why would you want to come back, right? If you could
Right.
stay, if you had the choice, you're like, this is great. And there's no
Ex-
concern whatsoever about anything else because
mm.
you're literally in heaven. Now, what happens? So, the question you get a lot, or I get a lot, is, what happens to, working as a medium, is my child or is my loved one okay that committed suicide? So, would you say that that was a predetermined thing that is in their chart?
That's a very good question. I feel that there is a predetermined tendency.
Mhm.
I think absolutely there's usually a tendency there. Um, I think sometimes too there's cheats. I think they may not have done that, but modern drug usage deteriorated some sort of reasoning ability. And so the karma was really a drug problem. That
Mhm.
was the karma. They've every time they're here, it's either heroin or it is, whatever drugs available in that lifetime. I have a lot of heroin addict clients who are opium addicts in
Mhm.
the past lives, so they just changed, you know. Uh but energetically, I feel like people ultimately have to consciously will themselves to abort. And
Mhm.
so I don't know if I think it's in the cards to avoid a suicide, but from what I understand with heaven stuff, a lot of it's a shock to heaven. It wasn't the plan.
Mhm.
Like they overrode, they drove it off the side of the
Mhm.
road, so to speak, off the cliff, and
Mhm.
and apparently, from what I understand, I don't know what having gone there and come back, but if you go against the script and kill yourself, you actually have like a special healing place that you're brought to for a while, and you're sort of
Mhm.
put on timeout, from what I hear from mystics and psychics and
Yeah,
books
that's
and everything
what
over and over
my
again.
understanding too.
Yeah.
You go like into a healing bubble, sort of.
Yeah, because you literally, the only thing that's literally working against God's gifts right there. Like,
Mhm.
and you're not punished, but you're working backwards.
Mhm.
And so they take it quite seriously as having to be straightened out, especially if you find that this is all simulation.
Hmm.
I mean, you got to get up there and be like, Jesus, what was I so worried about?
Right. Right. No, it's true. Right. But they would have to go into some form of healing and then, come back again and do it again.
They have to do it again. There's
Right.
one law in the universe is that you have to finish your plate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a commandment from God. It's something I know psychically
Mm-hmm.
without knowing how I know. And it's like the only like agreement is you finish what you start. You have
Mm-hmm.
to finish what you start, and everything goes in circles. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a straight line. So we say finish what we start. We say go from 12 o'clock where you're the hero to 6 o'clock where you're at the bottom of hell and you're wishing to God you weren't alive, back to 12 o'clock. It's great to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you have, or you're the Christian church and you're burning
Mm-hmm.
pagans, then you're the pagan and you're being burned, then you're back to being Christian,
Mm-hmm.
pointing at, the wrongs in the church.
Right.
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 It's that.
Yeah.
So you have to finish. So I think if you abort your life and
Mm-hmm.
suicide, then I think you have to start, from my understanding, you have to go back and do it again.
Right. I mean, it would make sense. It's like it was just too much. They couldn't do it. So here's your the second chance. Like go back and try again after we
Yeah.
do some
And
healing.
you carry all that,
Mm-hmm.
we can see in the chart what traumas you packed with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that it's linear. And I don't believe we bring all of your traumas in one life. From what I'm just can tell with my third eye and reading the charts and knowing people, is like, I think we get up there and we become creative and we go, let's take the codependency of this life
Mm-hmm.
and let's put in the daddy issues from this life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we pick up and put down, really philosophical ideas. Really, these are all
Mm-hmm.
philosophies about consciousness and what consciousness can be. And in talking to the alien mediums, because I've been kind of networking with people
Mm-hmm.
who channel the alien
Mm-hmm.
things, particularly the Pleiades,
Mm-hmm.
um, the whole allure of coming down to earth is the same allure of being drunk. It's that the soul that knows everything dumbs itself down
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
pretends to not know. Right. And so we come in this world where we go, let's pretend we don't know, everything turns out okay, and see how Chris does in this environment if he didn't know he was one with God. So for
Mm-hmm.
them, it's like a perverted amusement park where
Mm-hmm.
you can incarnate down into being human under this and just look at a strange part of your personality that's been isolated by the fact of limitation of knowledge. So it's a way of getting really, the 3D reality is a way of getting really nano about little parts of your soul, it seems like.
Fascinating. So you talked about past lives before, and can
Mm.
you see the different past lives that people have had in their astrological chart, or at least the ones that relate to their current life?
Yes. So the way it works for me is I am a full psychic. So um the planets will go, it's an issue, it's an issue where the person was violently attacked, and died. So the planet will say it's a violence leading to death, you know. And as soon as I go, what's violence leading to death? Then usually my higher self be like, oh, it's this. She was in a Western, this happened, that, blah, 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 blah. So for me, like the astrology is like a lookup, like, okay, it's got to be something about this. And I get an answer right away. I often usually see just like a flashbulb of the life. That's how my myself works with myself. But usually you have themes, and what we tend to work on entanglements.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, usually what they bring is an entanglement. So I can see an entanglement of wounds. You've
Mm-hmm.
got this wound, with mother, you've got this wound with self-nurturing, you've got that feeds this wound with codependency that all started from mother. And
Mm-hmm.
then as it turns out, mother was daughter past life. And so that mother wound goes back at least 3 or 4, lifetimes with this person. And there's always a love triangle who's now the brother.
Right. 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 I could totally see that. I mean, because you come back. I mean, the way I look at it, it's like we're these large soul families, and we're
Yeah.
just saying, okay, in this life, I'm going to play this role, and you're going to be that role. And
Yeah.
you're right. Oh, we need a child that's going to have these issues. All right, you over there, you'd be great for this. It's almost like we put together our own, movie crew.
I really feel that's it. That we're on the same exact page. I feel like you're up in heaven. You're like, okay, I got to learn about codependency. I
Yeah.
need someone to play the alcoholic mom.
Right.
Somebody want to play the
Literally.
alcoholic mom in my play?
I mean, that's how I feel too. It's like you're at, I envision the coffee bar up in heaven with this
Yeah,
big menu, and you're like, okay, I'll take number 24, 36, 535, right? And you
yeah,
just fill your plate with all these different issues you're going to come down and learn about. And
exactly.
then you,
I
as you
think
go through life, then you work through the different issues. And if you do a great job, you solve most of them.
yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like the leftovers you're going to trickle onto your plate in the next life.
I agree. They're unsettled. They're unfinished. You
Mm-hmm.
don't understand them. And I know the trick is your response. So the way out of the matrix is neutrality. So whenever you have like an emotional response and you don't return back to neutral, your mind doesn't turn to neutral, your emotions don't return, then you still have a hang up in the
Mm-hmm.
matrix.
Yep.
And so you have to disentangle yourself with
Mhm.
this reality, which is what Buddhism is basically saying with their non-attachment philosophy, as far as I'm concerned. They figured out that part that you have to just, you have to bring
Mhm.
yourself to neutrality. So I think it's a variation of all sorts
Mhm.
of things. I think, oh my God, I've always wanted to be a famous movie star. Okay, wish list, no karma there. You go for it. You can have it. And I even read some books around ascension.
Mhm.
Um, Out of India and in the direction of gurus and following that.
Mhm.
And in the book, they talk about how if you always want to be a movie star and you never get a chance to be a movie star, you have an attachment to the matrix. So until it's fulfilled and you've lived that life, you cannot detach, which is
Mhm.
why the Buddhists again are like, don't ask for anything because if you have,
Because then you're
it's going to
stuck.
turn into a rat's
Right.
nest of
It's stuck.
lifetimes of mistakes.
All right.
Right? We want out of here kind of thing. But
Yeah.
so it's a many things. I think you're right. I think it's many things. It's like, I want this, I'm gonna go do this play because I've got to learn this.
Mhm.
And while I'm down there, I got to pay the price for the time I did this. Okay, fine. I'll pay that bill. I'll be on the other side of my own karma. I'll experience what that was like,
Mhm.
how crappy it was to be the victim or to be the one that was let down or
Mhm.
whatever. So I think it's a myriad of things, new experiences, full circles, higher perspective, paybacks. Yeah, all in a play. And from what I understand from the aliens, from the Palladians, is you could die in this after this life, and you could then say, I want to learn about racism and go incarnate into the 1950s. That there's no linear time.
You're right.
So you can decide to now live in the 50s
Mhm.
after you just lived in the 2020s,
What do you think about,
allegedly.
yeah, what do you think about having parallel lives?
That's an interesting story. I now believe in it because I've had sort of proof of it, and I had
Mhm.
proof of it. I work with a woman named Alicia Powers um, who does higher realm communication. She's in
Mhm.
Australia. I did a session with her where she took me up, and the entity that greeted me. And when I say this happens, I mean you literally just follow their instructions. In her case, Alicia, she's like, now think about this. Now imagine this happening to this. And it's literally like your imagination is conjuring a higher connection through the symbolism of the imagination. And then there comes a point where the vision just takes over and you're not asking, you're not imagining. Now you're watching. It's a really interesting, and that's been my experience so far in envisioning. But in that vision, this entity once showed me like, you're currently operating on this planet, you're currently operating on this planet and this planet. And I was like, oh my God, like, which then put a thing in my mind to like, oh, I think that's where those dreams are from.
Mhm.
Because I've had a series of dreams with like a purple sky and like super magic powers. And it seems I keep picking up on the plot. I'm like, I'm 51 now and I'm just at a purple sky dream. We've been going back to our childhood. I now think it's probably a parallel something that I'm just operating somewhere else in. Do you
Yeah.
believe that?
Yeah, no, I believe that. I think there's why would we only have this one life, right? We
Oh
could,
yeah.
right? We could totally be somebody else also living on the earth, even in a different lifetime or in this lifetime
Oh,
in a different
that's
country,
true.
or we could have another parallel life in another planet. I mean,
Yes.
right? It's so, I mean, the soul or the spirit is a fragmented part that incarnates into each of the different
Yes.
worlds, or right?
Yeah. And also and a certain agreement in that incarnation. Like, so you're sort of tied, like you're tied to being Dr. Valentine. That's,
Right.
you're tied and you can't get out of it. You got to finish the ride, and
Yep.
then you can choose to be Bob.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I got it exactly. I came to do this. I mean, always joke. I got to resolve everything I can resolve so I don't have to bring anything to the next life, right? Resolve all your issues, heal everything you can heal so that when you come back in the next life, you've, moved on to a different level.
And that's what I think a twin flame is, by the way. I
Mhm.
think a twin flame is me on the earth at the same time in another body. I believe twin flames are you,
Oh, that's fascinating.
the other side of you.
Right.
So you put part of you in the right shoe, you put
Mhm.
part of you in the left shoe, and
Right.
then you had your shoes meet each other in the matrix
Right. Right.
where they fell in love because they knew they were a natural pair.
Right. Right. I mean, that's really interesting. So the people you hook up with are, actually yourself in a different body.
At least a twin flame. That's why
Right.
it's like
Okay.
Romeo,
Right.
Juliet, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy intimacy and sex.
Yeah.
It's just because you know exactly what you want.
Yeah.
It's like the most, probably the highest vibration of, self pleasure in a way.
Mhm.
Pleasuring yourself is
Right.
incarnating as the opposite sex of, to play the
Right.
other person in the role. So the fantasy is sort of perfect, everything you ever wanted.
Right.
From what I understand too, with twin flames, a couple things. One, it's only possible when you're a really big soul. So because from what I understand, as you age, you get bigger in the spiritual world. You have more light
Mm-hmm.
to the point of being a star.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a star is a very, very big ancient soul, from what I understand. I believe all the stars are conscious. I believe all the planets are conscious.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this microphone is conscious. I believe that you could find a way to talk to absolutely everything. But a twin flame is a very big soul that sometimes has to come in for it to feel balanced on the earth. It has to come in at least two at a time. It has to be have its feet. And when it's not, then the other half is dedicated to like staying on the other side and serving as operator, I think, to the other part of you that's on earth. And I think a lot of times we say our guides, our higher self, it's like, oh, it's your twin flame that didn't want to come down this time. And so sitting this one out, going to play operator and just radio down warnings, watching on the tube kind of thing.
Right.
And a lot of times a twin flame thing, and you see twin flames in twins. So a lot of times twins, when I read twins,
Mm-hmm.
they're twin flames, and it's the same soul in two bodies. And basically it's like, what if I was this person, and one version of me is going to be an optimist and the other version of me is going to be a pessimist. Go. And literally the twin flame is, their soul has a hypothesis. They're not sure which way to go in life. So they come down as a twin flame and they try both. And then they go back up into heaven. It's like, okay, I definitely like the optimist better.
Right. It works better on the planet Earth.
Right. Because a lot of times I actually, it's pretty trippy
Mm-hmm.
reading twins, and sometimes they're completely different souls, by the way, that
Right.
came in, joined at the hip. It varies.
Mm-hmm. What about, so, we talked about soul families and the kids that you have in this life, if you have kids or your partner or lover or whatever it is. When I'm not that familiar with it, but you can do like overlays or something of the charts. So,
100%.
right, can you see the reasons of why, like, let's say one of your kids incarnated to be in your life?
Yeah. What we can see is, so we can see like let's say your moon
Mm-hmm.
is sitting on top of their Pluto or their
Mm-hmm.
Chiron. So that would tell me, she's clearly here to soothe this wound. Her vibration is a soothing energy to a sore spot. So you see a lot of Twister. If you remember Twister from the 70s and
Yeah.
the 80s, where you play Twister, and there's a lot of Twister going on where you're like, the soul family has come to cover a weakness in another one, to double a
Mm-hmm.
strength of another one,
Mm-hmm.
to offer contrast to another one, to play the opposite in that place. So it's like, so there's a lot of setup in the sacred geometry, the
Mm-hmm.
positioning of the energy. And we can see clearly. And what's interesting? I was just having this conversation. I currently have two women working for me, or with me, I should say, that had my mother's birthday. And
Fascinating.
yeah, and
That
I
was
had a
meant to
hard time
be.
hiring these ladies because I'm like,
Right.
is it mother issues? Like, what is it? I don't like my astrology got in the way. I'm like, I don't know. Is this healthy? I don't know. Like
Right. Right.
it was tough. I'm like, oh, but that you can't judge a person on their chart. That's not legal. But I happen to know, so there's that whole moment. But now, and what I think is like, no, my soul always needs this frequency. And if
Hmm.
mommy's not around, boop, here's another one with that frequency. Boop.
Yeah.
So you'll see like a pattern of drawing in the
Hmm.
same birthday, or if you look deeper at the chart, like, oh, another moon in Taurus, another moon in Taurus, another moon in
Hmm.
Taurus. So you do see the patterns of how people are energetically sort of creating music with each other.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a reading, again, my psychic third eye takes over for that. So
Hmm.
if a client goes, why is my brother in my life? I just get a download, boom. So it's I can see how they're hardwired in reality,
Hmm.
but getting that full story is psychic for me.
Yeah, fascinating. Because we definitely incarnate, because you can see it within the families, right? You have kids that have the same birthdays or birthdays the day apart, and you have a child on the same day as your sister-in-law's, birthday, and it's like it crisscrosses within the families, right?
And
We
a lot of
share
times,
birthdays.
and that sister-in-law's child and that child, it's because they were meant to be close,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not even like
Hmm.
you're like, oh, what a coincidence. Yeah, because they're friends,
Right.
right? Friends in heaven that both beam down into a similar situation,
Right.
right? Like it's interesting. It's really fascinating to map out
Mhm.
the connections. And in my life, I mean, I know I would sound crazy, hearing it all, but I'm aware of, where my son and I were in our past life. Are you familiar with are your, where you've had past lives with the people around you?
Not really. I just know I've had past lives
Mm.
with
Well,
them.
as soon as you want to know more, it's Akashic record information from what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I have a guide that works with me, and um as soon as I look in, I can see, and we could have done that too in our trade too. We can look
Right.
at, and I could see as well. You can see where they come from, but it's very interesting the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
My younger brother now is my father in a past life. My son was my older brother. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
role switching.
Mm-hmm.
That's very common.
Right. I
Daughter,
could
mother,
totally
mother,
see
daughter,
that.
daughter, mother, mother, daughter. Like they go
Yeah.
back and forth. So it's almost like trying to like tan evenly on the beach by flipping over. You,
Right.
you
Right. It's like you just switch. Okay, my turn to be the mom, my turn to be,
right,
right.
exactly. Each kind
Uh,
of baking in the other side. Yeah.
right. Give back the karma you gave to the other person in the past life.
Correct. And learn,
Right.
learn. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember when my son was born, I was just like, I can remember being his age, and I was like, oh, that's what dad meant. It's
Hmm.
like when you are on the other side,
Yeah.
you really do see what you
Hmm.
didn't see when you were
Hmm.
there. Yeah.
So, what are we looking at coming up for the rest of this year in terms of
Ooh.
astrology? Any wisdom on, what's going to happen at the end of May, June, or maybe later in the fall with our election?
Hmm.
Anything that you want to shed some light on before we wrap up that would be beneficial for people to know?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Let me send everyone a good map for how to like ride this ride.
That would
Remember,
be good.
we're back in the Pirates of Caribbean. We're just going down the little um well, coming up in May, this month in May, first of all, is a very fertile month. Everything's going to manifest almost instantly for you. In fact, virus will grow out of control, drama will grow out of control, finances can grow out of control. Like this is a very fertile moment for manifestation. It's probably no surprise anything that you have in motion is going to bloom. So everyone's going to go through a boom bloom. And then in Gemini in June, we realize we're not who we thought we were.
Oh, fun.
And
That sounds like
yeah,
fun.
it is. In fact, I'm calling it the summer of love,
Uh-huh.
because I feel like we're going to fall in love again with ourselves. We're going to fall in love again with a part of our life. And Jupiter goes into Gemini. And so we're going to start to then kind of skip down yellow brick road. And so this summer is very, I don't know how to describe it. It is just a carnival of energy. I feel it's in astrology, it's in my psychic guides. Like it's the summer of love where you're in love with yourself and you're in love with an idea, and people are sort of racing down um, what's possible. And come Leo, August, your heart finally says, yes, yes, I want it. Yes, I want it. Yes, yes. So it's sort of like God going, here's what's possible. All right. But then in September, God goes, but first you got to deal with this.
Oh no. Is that the election coming up? Because
Yeah,
it's going to
pretty
be
much.
messy. I mean, can you see anything about it or?
It's a race for power. I mean, it is the biggest race for power we've probably ever had on the planet in our entire lives. It's bigger than the race of power for world wars. And frankly, it's not organized itself into world war this time. I mean, again, cycles and circles. Here we are again. And when I say again, we're in the same place we were in the American Revolution. We're in the same place we were during the American Civil War. And we're in the same place we were in the American World War II. So we actually are looking at through the planets. The planets have brought us back to the echo of humans destroying themselves. The
Wow.
echo has come back,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So
We
are
have
we
this
going to get
bad
out
habit
of
of
it?
destroying ourselves.
How are we going to get out of it?
My new answer is when you realize that you're just in a dream in heaven and you decide to get out of it, yes, that's what I
So that's
feel.
all we really have to do. We just have to say, all right, this is all going to be good and we're going to resolve this issue and move on and create the world that we would like to be in.
I really believe, I mean, my latest and greatest philosophy on how reality works is you say, no, I don't vibe with that president. I don't vibe with that outcome. I don't vibe with that. That's not what I vibe with. And
Mhm.
instead of fighting with it, like, oh no, I'm stuck on this ride that I can't change. It's like, no, my heart doesn't want that. My heart wants this. And so we energetically feed what our heart wants instead of giving attention to what our heart doesn't want.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
And that's literally the shift from evil to good.
Yes.
We're literally saying, don't focus on what's evil, focus on what's good. And as soon as you focus on what's good, good according to your definition, your life will be good. So I personally, my latest theory is there's going to be one earth that destroys itself. I
Mhm.
think there's going to be one earth that stays in this constant tug of war where the white flag just goes nowhere at all and just keeps going back and forth. And I believe there's what I call Earth 3, which I believe is going to be an earth where we go build we heal ourselves and we go build a new world based on spiritual principles. And
Mhm.
I don't think we'll be talking to each other because until I get back to heaven and take off the mask, I won't be like, oh, so you chose Earth 1. Why'd you do that?
Right.
And they'll be like, what? There's a choice? Yep. When you're down there, you could actually choose.
Right. Right.
Turns out. So you didn't have to experience your skin being melted off. You could have
Right.
avoided that. You
Right.
know?
You could just have been over here instead. Right. But I
I
mean,
feel
there's
that's what
truth
it
to
is.
it because it's what you see, it's how you perceive yourself in the world. That is what you're going to see. It's the same thing when you resolve the trauma, it's not there anymore. When you see yourself different, it's not there anymore. So
Yes.
there's truth to that, right? So if we don't want to have a bad outcome of the election and we want it to be peaceful, we want to manifest a great world where, we have our own house and we have our families and love, and then that's what we can manifest.
Totally. And I think it takes a real wizard to manifest something completely different than what is a logical extension. So for me, the ride I'm on is that the earth will heal. I can't imagine just suddenly being disappearing and seeing unicorns flying. I don't have that power. I don't know how I do that one, but I do have a strong vision since I've been on the channel I'm on, the earth heals. That's the channel I'm on. So what
Mhm.
does that mean for elections and whatnot? God, I don't know. Like I'm always amazed at how like I order the kitchen from God. I want this experience, and the dish that comes up always flips me out. Like, whoa, that's the dish. Okay. But I ordered happiness. Nope, that's happiness with a side of sad. I'm like, okay.
Right. Uh,
All
so
right.
so if you could give a message to the people that are
Mm.
listening, what would that message be?
The message is your heart is the most important part of your conscious awareness. And if you want to ascend to the greatest potential of who you are, all you have to do is include your heart in everything you do. And it's so simple, and it doesn't lie, and it doesn't screw up. Even when even if someone who can't sing at all, they have a horrible voice and they're singing on stage and they're in their heart, you're like, oh, that's an adorable little idiot, isn't it?
Right. Right.
Like
Yeah.
if you're in your heart, even people who would normally put you down can't. It's just, they just can't. They surrender to it. It's a universal language that we automatically, surrender to.
Mhm.
So if you want to change the world, change your life, just live in your heart. Like ask your heart every question. Yeah,
Great
that's my
words of
thought.
wisdom. And how
Thank
can
you.
people learn more about you or work with you?
Great question. Well, I do a free show every week on YouTube. It's Sirius JoY TV. Sirius is spelled like the star Sirius, Sirius Joy TV on YouTube, and that's called Namaste Today Live. And I do a full 2.5 hour extravaganza every Friday night that's free to the public. And then I have if you want to get deep and serious about your joy, I have a personal life coaching service. It's very unique. Basically, you give us your time and date of birth, and I start sending you text messages, and there's a daily pep talk. And I basically walk with you every day and help you to find your neutrality and find your power every day. So I find that if you really want to change your life, you need someone with you every day. You need a coach every day, and reminders every day. And if you just keep correcting your consciousness every day, like braces straightening teeth, you will find your path. So that's SiriusJoy.com if you want to join our family. It's $3.99 for the first month.
Oh, that sounds great. And we'll make sure to put all your links in the podcasts and YouTube notes so that people can
Thank
easily
you.
find you. So just go to the show notes and then you can click on the link and get a reading. And I have had a reading with Christopher as well, and it was very, very fun. So I highly recommend it for anybody who would like to learn more about your incarnation and what you're here to do and, what that brings. It was very, very informative. So I highly recommend it. So thank you so much, Christopher, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you as a guest.
Thank you so much. You live by your name. You truly are a Valentine.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Do you ever find yourself struggling with the weight of loneliness? Or maybe you pride yourself on your independence, yet deep down you crave a sense of connection to others. Do you feel like chronic illnesses or financial fears are holding you back from living your fullest life? If any of these feelings or experiences resonate with you, then you might be carrying what is called an ancestral mother wound. I invite you to join me on Saturday, June 8th, 2024, for my upcoming live masterclass titled Ancestral Healing, Healing Your Ancestral Mother Wound. Ancestral healing relates to the patterns of behavior and experiences of our ancestors. We take on patterns of behavior and thoughts subconsciously from our parents, as well as aunts, uncle, grandparents, and others. And we get entangled in these energies, and these patterns are repeated in the generations that follow until healed. But once we can recognize why we're having certain experiences, we can find the patterns that are causing them and the tools to heal them. I work with clients around the globe who wish to lead lives filled with meaning, worth, health, and flourishing connections to others, who find themselves suffering from low self-worth, in inability to feel and receive love from others, unfulfilling relationships, health struggles, and more. In this masterclass, you will learn what an ancestral mother wound is and how a mother wound presents itself in your life, work, or relationships. Learn how the words you use and the feelings you experience guide and illuminate your path to healing. It is my joy and honor to guide you on your journey to healing your ancestral mother wound. And I hope to see you in this online class on June 8th. And you can find the link in the show notes to learn more and to save your spot for this masterclass. As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within our community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with friends and family. Subscribe to my newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlottie.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.